Hello YouTube, I'm llecllerrafael and we're doing something completely different from anything I've ever done before. We're playing Napoleon Total War. So it's gonna be me as the British up here, and we have my ally, the Prussians, who are at my left, and my other ally, the Russians, who are at my right. And in this game, it's a 3v3. We're gonna be fighting the French, the British, and I think it's the Prussians on this side. Like, Prussia comes on over this side. So now let's go check out the army compositions of everyone. So my Russian friend has 2 units of Uhlans. He has, let's see, musketeer. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry. He has. Oh, okay. I'll go from here. Okay. So he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units of Russian Jaegers. He's running. Let's see again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units of musketeers, which are like a line infantry for Russia. Oh wait, 7, 8. So he's got a total of 8 musketeers. This is his backup line. The way he's organizing. He has his general staff in the middle. Nothing special about him. He's just a normal general. And then we have the 2 groups of Russian Uhlans. And that's his army. And in this game, the rules were no artillery. And now, being a good gentleman, I'm going to go over to my other ally before I review my own army. Let's see. Battle has not officially started. When we see the guys pop up, we're going to check that out. So my Prussian player has 8 life regiment. That's how I'm going to pronounce it. He has 3 units of musketeers in column, which are like his line infantry. He has 2 units of skirmishers, the Cieslan Schützen. Then he has 4 more musketeers. So 7 line infantry in total. He's got 4 units of Lutzau's Freikorps. 1 unit of Lutzau's Freikorps, 2 Lancer units, no, 3 Lancer units, alright. When I was playing, I never really looked at what he had, because I just kind of saw horses and cav. Then he has 2 Schützen, which is the skirmishers for Prussia, and he has 2 more Landwehr on the right side, 3 more Landwehr on the right side. What the hell is his organization? And now, for my British army, I did something pretty straightforward here. I have I have 5 units of riflemen in the front, and then I have a good amount of Great Britain foot. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Is it 6 or 7? Yeah, it's 7. 7 units of English foot. And then I have Great Britain Fencibles, which are like the militia, but I had extra cash for that. Then I have a King's German Legion Foot, which are like my elite troops, and Highland Foot, which are also kind of elite, and then a regular foot. Okay, so before we start the battle, I'm going to pause the game so I can review my opponent's armies. So over here again, the Prussians on this side. I'm so glad that, because when you're fighting, it really sucks to have the same stuff, like the same nation right across from each other, because it's hard to know who's who. And so our opponents, the Prussian, he has a unit of Landwehr up in the front, and he has musketeers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He has 6, let me just double check, yeah, 6 units of musketeers. He has a unit of the skirmisher, light infantry. He has a regular general staff, 2 cuirassiers, and that's actually about it. He didn't bring much. Oh, sorry. So because these 2 unit. Okay. I don't remember. I guess he had a small amount of stuff. Yeah. Anyway, then let's go over to the French. The French player is bringing, besides. He has so he has a National Guard in the back. Interesting placement. He has 2 units. He has a unit of Empress Dragoons. Sorry. He has 2 units of Empress Dragoons, and he has Cruisiers, Chassiers. They're Chassiers. Sorry. Then he has a unit of Dutch Guard and Polish Guard Lancers. He actually has all the cav units that are like unique to France, which is really surprising. So he has a French Guard of Seamen. He has a Young Guard. He has 2 Young Guard. He has a Polish Legion, a Swiss Foot, a Polish Legion, Swiss Foot, and then he has a Fusilier, which is like regular line. Then he has a second National Guard. He has a extra spare militiaman. He has a second militia and National Guard. He didn't bring Old Guard, which is probably why my my Prussian ally, had a good chance to fight him. And now let's look at the British Army, kind of real quick, because these videos can be pretty long. He has the Black Watch, 42nd Foot in the front. He has 2 Foot Guards right behind him. His General Staff. On his far right, he has Highland Foot, 2 units of Highland Foot. Okay, that's why he doesn't have as much, it's because he has a lot of elite troops. He has, 5 Highland Foot, 2 Foot Guard, General Staff, and then, he has 2 KGL, King's German Legion Light Dragoons on each side, and 2 Life Guards. Alright, so let's actually play. So immediately, the enemy team decides to rush forward. Very quickly. Let me see, are they actually running? Yeah, they're running. The English player makes an immediate move to take this hill. And I am, of course, slow to react, because in TeamSpeak, we're talking, and I'm not very good at this game yet, so I'm moving up kind of individually. I'm not really, because see, these guys just moved, now these guys are going to move. The other guys are better at, like, positioning, because I didn't know how to, like, see where my other troops were going, so I had to wait till one stop before I could move another successfully. The Prussians are also making a full charge forward, especially with his skirmishers and his main line infantry, and these guys are sweeping around. The Russian player also will decide to meet his Prussian opponent by just moving everyone forward in big line, but he manages to keep formation, which is really good. So the people who get here first for the British are the Foot Guard, who are going to be getting on top of this hill. But fortunately, because of these woods here, I was able to get a good advantage alone just by having like this extra cover, because the British aren't going to be able to charge with like their cavalry or anything. The French player ended up not really moving until he got his horses in position, because he was trying to loop around and I guess connect up, which is really important in this game. You want to have good lines connected to each other. So as you can see, the enemy, that little pop-up, the enemy got in a building. I'm not quite sure. I'm going to zoom to that location. Oh, we got into a building, which is totally fine. And then over here, the Russian player decides to stop and allow the Prussian player to set up, which is pretty straightforward. The French player still hasn't moved, and then the British player is going to come to try and envelop me. So I'm just going to be like, you know what? That's fine with me, because the Russian player left his cav
taking the building, sir?
On the left. Yeah. Okay, I ended up taking that building over here because I saw these British guys in the woods, and I did not want to get screwed over too hard, because I wanted Prussia to get to focus against France. And so then the first shooting happens over here. The Prussian player will begin by charging some landwehr at the Russians. Oh, sorry. And this doesn't end up working because he was trying to charge to kill his light infantry, but because like the light infantry are able to retreat behind a regular line, then those musketeers pretty much died for nothing. Now, the reason why you do this tactic is because you get a chance for your light infantry normally to get free shots, but his light infantry for some reason wasn't really firing.
This building has fallen to the enemy.
Oh yeah, they took a building somewhere. Yeah, on the French side, they took a building, but it's okay because that doesn't really matter that much. So yeah, and then since he kind of wasted his opportunity because his light infantry weren't firing for some reason. So that means that we got a free kill. Now over on this side of the battlefield, Prussia begins moving up their light infantry, but then they fall back because he took the building, and you can't really assault a building with light infantry. So anyway, so the Prussians decide to move up their foot guard, which is essentially their line infantry, because they're out of range. Because the reason why I use light infantry is because of that range advantage. And so then they'll just start volleying back. But because they're in skirmish formation, it's going to be a bit hard to defeat them, really. And if you're wondering what us British are doing, pretty much he went on the hill. I'm slowly trotting up my men, and pretty much his cav's going to sit there, and I'm not going to push out because his cav would charge my light infantry, and I couldn't get stakes up in time. Anyway, so the light infantry are, this is pretty close. But then the Prussian player does something interesting. He does a full cav charge with all of his cav units directly into the light infantry, and he wasn't expecting this. So immediately, for some reason, all of the line infantry went in a square. Honestly, you could have just had these guys stay in column, because you're very bad. Sorry, you're very bad at shooting when your musketeers are in a square. But it was okay, because this is why you have lines behind lines behind lines. So the Russian player was able to wipe out the cav, and then this new healthy cav is going to get ambushed by the people in the woods, which means they can't really do anything. And the Prussian player, I mean, he kind of did it, but what he really should have been doing is moving up so his men are more accurate, so that way he can get better shots off. Because he's not really going to do much if he doesn't take advantage of what the cav charge is supposed to do, which is to just keep the infantry in melee so they can't fire back. But, I mean, Russia kept firing back, so it was all okay. Over here, the French player still wasn't moving, and so we were talking on TeamSpeak to a Prussian player, and we told him, hey, look, just take the forest, and maybe take the hill if you want, and wait for the French player to make a move. Which he is doing slowly. He's just moving up everyone in a walking formation. So anyway, the Russian player decides he can get his the light infantry, the skirmishers, the Russian Jaegers, back out. They're technically Jaegers, sorry. And then this adds for additional firepower because they block the line infantry from firing. And when you're supported, like in a skirmisher formation, that means that you won't worry about your troops shooting your own, because line infantry can shoot through light infantry, which is wonderful. Now there are some shots being taken by the Prussian player. There's a bit of engagement here in the woods. So to be honest, we weren't quite sure what he was doing. He just knew he had to hold the line, and he was firing out of the woods. And so then he gets the first route over here. And so those guys that are over there, they're gonna. What is that? I don't know what that is. Okay. So he got him to route, so he's gonna go and try and get on the side, so that way he gets better shots. So he's gonna block by moving over to try and stem the loss of his life. But then this whole wing, what you should be doing is swinging up to lock into place, so he has a big wall. And in this game you want to have a U-shape. The guy with the U-shape is usually going to win the game. Over here, the French player finally moved up, and so he has his light infantry firing, and he realizes that he's not protected by his line infantry yet. So he's going to fall back into the safety of his woods, and the French cavalry has not done anything that much. So these stakes were a bit unnecessary at the time, but I mean the threat of cav was still always present. Now the Russian player, my ally, did end up losing one unit of Ulan? No, musketeers, yeah. He lost the line of musketeers, and see, here we go. He's making that U-shape because in Napoleon, only the first line can fire, so that's why he did that. And, let's see, so those musketeers versus Russian Jaegers and line infantry, see that bar is going down real fast. And so the Prussian player, he's starting to get enveloped. Alright, he's trying to like hold out because he has his light infantry, but this is not a good position for them. Light infantry really cannot fight line head on, and you never want to have your light infantry engaging line infantry unless you have that good support. But the French player massed all his guys up over here. Admittedly, there was this hill in the way, but what I would have done as the French is maybe try and take this hill and loop around here. If there's yeah, you can totally walk on and try and get this spot taken care of. But keep in mind, the Prussian player is holding this line because the French player did not spread out his men in an efficient manner. So these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 French units are being held back by essentially 5 Prussian units. So then, of course, the Russian player ends up completely destroying the Prussians, so he moves forward to try and get into better positions to gun down the remaining Prussians, who are currently falling back to regroup now. And I think this might be the time, I don't know when it happens. So Prussia had this whole army that, like, the general and an extra unit of musketeers protected by Great Britain's Highland foot, but again, Great Britain wasn't doing anything. And if you'll notice, even though it's slow, I am actually pushing my men forward here. And I did have stakes up, but I decided, you know what, we gotta get in this fight. So I start marching up, but I'm not rushing it, because, you know, if the British player is up on this high ground, what I was trying to do is get my skirmishers in range of these men, because my skirmishers have better range. So over here we have a charge from the French into, I think that's Prussia. Yeah, that's Prussian musketeers. That isn't the light infantry. The light infantry are back here, and unfortunately they're facing the wrong way. Because maybe he didn't want his men firing into his own, but he did have an opportunity to gun these men down. So this French unit of Voltigeurs is going to break, but he did smartly put some men up here to shoot down at the Prussians. I don't know. Are they shooting? They should be shooting. Maybe he mistoggled something. And then these French guard seamen are going to be firing at the light infantry. I don't quite know what his thought process was. And then over here, you can see the French cavalry was coming in to try and get a good charge off. But the problem is there's these stakes. I don't know if he already breached one side, but stakes pretty much will rip apart the first wave of cav. So the charge is kind of successful, but because of the woods and because he has this supporting unit that's pretty much untouched, actually, yeah, it is untouched, he was able to just rout that cav by basic gunfire. And the French player goes in a square, but I'm not quite sure why he would do this when there's no cav around, because infantry are very bad in a fight when there's no, like in square, if there's no cav, because square is made to kill cav, but if there's no cav, what are you doing? And keep in mind, the Prussian player is doing this, and he still has all these men that are not engaged. I mean, he's bringing up a couple units to help stem loss of life and maybe cut around. But then you'll notice these Prussians, who are also my allies, he brought all his cav up. I guess he was doing runs, and that's okay. So now the British player is getting some side shots on the Prussians. So I'm talking to him, and while I'm moving up slowly and trying to figure out what to do, the Russian player is pushing up all his men to just be more aggressive as a whole. So as you can see, the Russian player, now he's doing something kind of bad. You don't want to be in what's called the noob square, which I actually recently just learned, is when you have this kink right here, facing outward, because think about it, you're firing this way, and you're firing this way, but this whole gap is open. If you're the U player, then surface area wise, you're firing this way and this way, so everything in here will get killed, instead of leaving a gap. But that's just for firing arcs. I mean, obviously, the Russian player decides to charge him with cav, because these musketeers did not have enough men to square, I think, or musketeers just can't square. So over here, the Russian player still had all his cav, and I was debating with him whether or not I should bring cav over to help the French, because the English were busy fighting over here against the British. Like he turned his lines to fight them, but the French were horribly getting destroyed. Just because, look at this, they're not unsquaring, you know, and they're not even charging in melee. So these men are going to easily be able to kill the young guard because there's light infantry help and his cav did attack this French unit, so that would explain why they're wounded. And they also, honestly, this is a bad angle for those guards, so they're gonna break. And then British cav shows up off the hill, and what I'm doing is I'm just waiting for these lines to move up. Now I am moving up, and I'm very close actually within range, but eventually the British player does something smart and he pulls back. So he's moving back, and the Russian player is just swinging around like, yeah, he knows what's up. And I don't know why. I don't know if he's like wanted to charge these men off, but once they cross that red line, they're pretty much done, because that's the border of the map. So the Prussian player does his best to regroup with his British allies. And yes, there's a big mess of British people. And right as I was ready to get the free shots on his men, he pulls back. So I'm talking to my guys. I'm like, hey, what are we doing here? Now, eventually, I had brought up some of my British foot to go into the woods with him, because when you're playing, you can hide people in the woods, but we didn't realize the British had just pulled out completely. So the Prussians were able to push this French unit back, and all these men are clumped up. You don't want to be clumping up your men. You don't want to be. Because even though, I mean, the Prussian player kind of has to do it, you'll notice that all these men who are running, for some reason, I mean, they could have held this hill. Because once they gave that up, I was like, hey guys, we can totally push up here. But you see how I have like rows of men. I got light infantry that'll going to be able to fall back should cav like attack, which is what it's for. But all the men they're just going to kind of rush down here, and we didn't really figure out why. So because the Russian player then was forced to like kind of chase everyone down. I don't know what he was doing. Yeah, he was in TeamSpeak. It made more sense when we were talking. Someday I'll actually do a live game. But so all these men are running, and the only real thing we're focused on is trying to hunt down the French, which is going pretty well because we have these infantry who are getting free shots on the French. Because look, you get in square, it's like I don't see cav around. Do you see cav around? I mean, the closest cav unit is back here, but it's not charging. You don't need to square. You only really square when you're close. So I'm just like, alright, fine, we're moving up. When we realize that the enemy's so far away, I just decide, we got to get into this fight, and I have a fresh army. I mean, I haven't really fought. And same for the British, but the British are all that's left. I mean, when we coordinated this, we said, hey, if you can push on this side, and if you eventually push on this side, then we kind of won, because they can't really stop all of our armies. What they end up doing is they run their general, and like, pretty much England is the only real threat now, because they're the only ones with troops. And it's kind of ridiculous that we were able to do that so quickly. So yeah, these are the National Guard, and the National Guard is supposed to be pretty decent. But it doesn't really matter if you're flanking completely around. Now they did take the building, but you'll soon see that that building is not really going to matter all that much. And I figure this is the slower part of the game, so we're just going to get some awesome shots. These are the French National Guard fighting the Prussian musketeers. And then these units of militia. Militia are really crap. I'm just going to say that right now. They're absolute garbage. And because look at their morale, they're already in the red. And look, they broke. That's what happens when you run with militia in your front. You always save militia for the rear. Or if you're going to use militia, you want to have them charge in front. Because units, if you don't order them to fire at a certain unit, will fire at the closest unit. And that's what militia are really good for, is rush tactics to get your line or light infantry free shots. So he's going to completely use these woods to his advantage because he can shoot out pretty well, but shooting into woods is really hard. And again, he's staying clumped. I don't know what he was doing. I mean, technically it's intimidating, but when everyone's just piled together, it's kind of lame. Because he has these Fusiliers and Swiss foot. Swiss foot are really strong, actually, and to be frank, I don't know why he was doing this, because look, all these men are lining up and getting these free shots on him. So one unit eventually routs, it's Fusiliers of line, whatever, and then what is that, Swiss foot run, yeah. And keep in mind, he hasn't even used all of his army. You know, there's still plenty of army that hasn't really fought much. And I'm just slowly rushing up, slowly, because we thought there were guys in the woods, so we were being a bit careful. But we didn't realize that all of the British players were here, because sometimes people leave traps. And that was the concern. So when you have this U, this is what you want to do, because look, you're covering this whole surface area, and you got this surface area. So like, you can't be outmatched, but if you're the other way, then you'd have line firing this and line firing that way, because you fire straight. You know, you don't, there's no curving. The men aren't smart enough to, like, you know, people on this side fire that way, you know, they just go straight at whatever they're shooting at. I mean, they angle it a bit, but the combined efforts of their firepower and their lack of line, see, I mean, that's not much of a line, so he charges, because, and I mean, at this point I probably would charge too, because running isn't really an option when you have this many units coming after you. Now, one thing that was kind of smart is the French player did try and use his cav to make a charge, but musketeers can form square, and square kills cav, so the French player would either need to pull out, which he doesn't do, he doesn't realize, I guess maybe because he's managing whatever this stuff is, so he can't fight the building. You know, that's pretty obvious at one point or another. So he lines up, this square is going to take the brunt of the cav, and that's completely fine. So over here the French player is trying to run back to his troops, and the general, he's just standing there, like the French general. He could have been running around the map to, like, I mean, these guys, I mean, sure, there's only 46 of them, so they can't form square, but, like, those National Guard with, like, 45, I mean, you want to be rallying your troops so that way they can actually help. So he's going to charge this building, I think. He should be going into the building, yeah. He moves them up, gets a shot off, and then he's going to rush in. And I always thought building attacks are really cool. So I'm actually going to zoom in here. And you'll see immediately he's, like, making good progress, because these Prussian musketeers are going up against... damn it, can I zoom in on these guys? I don't actually know. Maybe I can't. Oh well. So, this is my cav. My cavalry decided, you know what, we're going to push forward on this flank, because I had brought cav over to try and help out with clearing up the French. So I eventually decided, okay, let's pull back, let's regroup, because the enemy had a pretty impressive line, except for this kink right here. And we'll get to that later, because the Russians we were talking to, I was like, hey, just go massive on the left, or sorry, on the right, on our right, their left. Because if you look at this elevation, now this is still part of the map, you could totally go back here, but they're on low ground, and even though this is totally the upper, you know, I mean, eventually we took that building. My dragoons were marching around. We didn't want to get tired. We were just all pushing up forward, and we were going as quick as we could, safely. Now this is the part of the game that slows down a little bit, so I'm gonna fast forward ×3 here. It's gonna get a bit laggy. Don't hate me. Okay, I didn't want the video to lag, so I just left it. And I guess they're firing at the retreating unit of whatever that is that died. Yeah. In that whole battle, we only lost, like, I mean, there's these guys, you know, and keep in mind, I haven't fought anyone, alright? I haven't actually used my men, and these British units are going to be the last line of defense for their generals, and, you know, the French have reallocated, you know, they're repositioned what's left of Prussia that was on the left actually came all the way over to the right. So that makes things a bit complicated, but in-game we can differentiate, of course. So I move up all my British units slowly, because I'm trying to, once again, get these skirmishers in range of his foot and lifeguards, because they do not have the range of my light infantry. And that was my thinking, and then the Russian player, he's also making formations, and we're just getting ready for the final push. You know, we figure we can take our time. You know, we're not in a rush, and this is not a rush type of game. You know, you want to take your time with it. I always thought it was interesting why he moved in columns. I don't know if you're technically faster this way, but he was kind of lining up and setting up for a bigger push. But I personally believe in just lining up your forces like Russia has. Russia got a big open spot to plan out his course of action, which is much easier because he can just envelop this. I mean, this is nothing. All these British units back here, I mean, cav. I guess they're all cav, but I mean, yeah, alright, fine. I mean, okay, they had the Black Watch in reserve for some reason. I would have stretched the Black Watch out to this line. I mean, I don't know, I guess. That was okay. I mean, all these cav are right here, ready to just charge in. Now, these Highland Foot, I don't know if they can form square. Admittedly, I don't know that. But all these foot could. Or not the Highland Foot, but regular foot infantry could. Now, you'll notice something really funny happens. I forget to leave my general staff. Like, I leave him behind. But I'm like, oh, I should totally run him up. And so I'm just letting some of my men catch up, because in this game I was moving units one at a time, which is also why I was kind of slow. The Russian player has played better than any of us in general, so we were able to get a full surround on him. So the French Fusiliers, I guess they realized that there's a gap. I mean, there are pretty significant gaps all around, because look at this. These men, up from above, sure, but this is what they can actually see. And when you're planning out how to line up, you want to know what you can see. From here, you can only see those two Russians. Horse, you know. And from the Russian perspective, based on the way they're lining up, well, from here, I'm just going to zoom in. You know, they wouldn't be able to see much, but the moment you crest this hill, you can see everyone. And that's pretty significant to the strategy. And over here, the Prussians did a bit better, because look, they got stakes up, which makes sense. But again, you know, terrain matters. This little hill is going to be part of the reason why they can't necessarily hold the line. In this game, you want to take as much ground as you can. So I'm just moving up my British army pretty handily, and we're waiting for the Russian player to get in position. We're just setting up. And the Prussian player, he had units that weren't even like in combat, you know. They haven't even fought, so he had like fresh units ready to go. I think he has one wounded unit, yeah, 59 over there. And so I'm moving my dudes up, and then these two guys in the back, I'm like, oh crap, I forgot about them. So these are my two cav. They're pretty much untouched. They're going to do something really epic later. So he has his general staff. I don't know how I feel about not positioning the general staff behind the army. And eventually I realize, hey, wait a minute. I should totally get my guys up there. So I do. And I'm pushing forward. I thought he was just going to walk down the center, you know. I thought there was nothing wrong with that. But then randomly, as we're playing the game, I forget about there's spikes here. And look at this. This is like the only spikes here. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous that my general is so dumb. He just walks through. So I'm all lined up, and I'm looking at this. You need to understand that I'm measuring ranges, which is why we're going a bit slow. He's totally ready. He knows exactly how to move up. And I did learn how to, after this game, like I'm going to be much better at moving everyone as a unit. Because see, those guys move and those guys move. Now these guys are going to move. Are they walking? Yeah, so then these guys are moving. I guess I got two. I know how to drag and stuff. So he's all ready. He has his light infantry, the rifles, his riflemen. But we have more, and the Prussian player totally knows
your
this.
general has been killed.
Okay, so check this out.
This is a black day.
So, like, they choose to run through the one spike area where, on the whole map, the British player put up spikes. And the British player's probably thinking, wow, that just happened. And we all just kind of, I looked back and I was talking to them, I'm like, so I don't have morale anymore, because you get a massive morale penalty. Which is why I thought, you know, maybe we don't have a chance, because when we were playing, we were like, you know, most of your guys' units is, like, hurt. Yeah, 37, 70, you know. Just 14. Oh, we know that's... Yeah, even his general staff took damage. I mean, he was not, I mean, he was good for what we were doing, but he wasn't, like, ready, because, like, see, I'm moving my light infantry up, ready. They're almost in range, by the way, because the moment I move up, his light infantry will get the first volley, and I was a bit worried about that at the time. So the Russian player is just like, you know what, let me do it. Now this, I think, was a bit of a mistake if the light infantry do not fire. So these light infantry fire their first volley. French falls back, and Russia makes its opening move. I guess he really wanted to get in there, because now everyone's in range. So I'm moving up my light infantry, trying to connect up with the Russians, because we have this big gap, and that's a bit of an issue when you play this game. And Prussia starts to charge, well, not charge, but he moves his units in pretty well. And then Russia just saving the day for us, you know, because there's these cav charging. So although he doesn't put down stakes, he's like, okay guys, let's form squares. I don't know what that little clump is supposed to be. It's a diamond. I don't know if that's like their version of square, so they're gonna get, all the cav are gonna charge them. And so then I move these guys up to try and get in range for some sort of shots. And I'm just slowly approaching. I have all these line infantry units coming in the back, and then I start firing at them. And for some reason I actually outrange them. I think because those are maybe our light infantry, and I have skirmishers, and skirmishers have higher range. No, they fired. Okay. Now, since I don't have my general, like, these guys are already starting to kind of get weak. That's because their morale is absolute garbage, because I have no general. If I had my general, these guys would not be breaking that easily. And so then my ally sends cav over to try and get around them. These guys we were playing weren't amazing, but, you know, they weren't bad either. So I guess he lost some musketeers in that, but he's just going to keep firing down range, and that's going to mean I'm only contending with the front, which is really what I wanted to do, because we were talking, he's like, yeah, just hold the line, distract units, so that way they could come around on the sides, which is really what we needed to do. And you'll see we have a giant U around this position, so we were totally comfortable. I don't know why these guys, okay, these guys are firing eventually now. Yeah, get some good volleys in there. But because he had his general, his morale wasn't really getting wavered, so I knew I had to kill them. I mean, 38 out of 60.
Our men are running, sir.
And then eventually that one light infantry unit does break, because they got shot to death, because I guess he might have targeted them or something. I'm not quite too sure. But then he loses a line here, but it's not going to matter too much, because he set up stakes, but these guys are going to charge, and they do not get affected by the stakes. Those are musketeers that are meant to die. What musketeers do is allow the enemy to waste their first volleys, so then, I mean, that kind of sucked. And then the Russians, thank God he still had cav. Instead of putting his cav into this scuffle, he just charges his cav into the Highland Foot, and I guess they try and get into some sort of defense, but they don't. And we noticed there were no stakes here, so he just charged that completely. And then I make a daring move to rush all my cav in instantly, and again, there were no spikes, the stakes were only up there. And that was done in order to get the freedom for my men to push up the line infantry, because line infantry are very weak on the charge against the lights, but then once line infantry get in position, they're good to go. So this unit, I mean, it kind of gets to fire, but not really. And so I'm moving up, he's falling back. You don't fall back, by the way, when you play. You just shouldn't. So I'm like, hey, screw that line infantry unit. The Prussian general's right there, because he was actually struggling a little bit before they started pulling back. So I just kind of order all three of my cav to charge directly at the general staff of the Prussians. And even though there is a line infantry unit to help, that's not important, because then it means my units will slowly get to move up. Russia advances quickly. I start advancing quickly now because...
We have killed their general, sir. Now they must break.
Yep, and then, of course, because we have really good positions against a general, we just take them out. And then they're forced to fall back. They get up on this upper hill position, and we're just like, come on, guys. Come on. We were getting a bit sick of it. Britain's lifeguard was over there, I guess, doing some work. And then the Russians, you know, what's left of them, which is still a lot. I mean, they still had a lot.
Glorious victory, sir, is soon to be yours.
Yeah, we know. So this was my first game ever of Napoleon Total War, and that's why I didn't really, me personally, I didn't do as much. Because they said, okay, don't worry, look, we know how to do this on the sides, and it's because Britain didn't attack, you know. I mean, if they had pushed down the hill, sure. I knew exactly what basic procedures to do to protect my men. But Britain didn't, and Britain actually went completely berserk trying to defend his allies, because they must have thought I was AFK or something. But eventually, you know, I'm pushing up all my men. You know, and eventually I ordered a big sweep around to try and help out in whatever way I could, because this is where the bulk of their final army was, because Prussia said he had it, so I didn't bother. So I sweep down all the way, stretching my lines, because I can catch stragglers, because Russia was didn't have enough men
We
anymore.
have killed their general, sir. Now they must break.
And we killed their general, and then the reason why I actually get second in this game is because I get these awesome shots onto his general, because his my light infantry and my infantry just completely eradicate that general straight up. You know, that's because he didn't even have a chance to run. He just died, like, immediately. So then we just start encompassing them more and more. I don't know why they thought getting on this hill would help that much, because they're right next to the red line, so if any of them get routed, there's not enough time for them to come back. And you'll notice he even, like, forgot about units. I mean, I forgot about some units. And I'm just charging down in this giant wave. You know, I'm going down in blocks. You know, I'm not even worrying about positioning. And we win. And I got second. I did the least. You know, I lost the least and I killed the least. But I deployed, you know, the same as all my guys. And I got second because I'm not sure, to be honest. Well, anyway, thank you for joining me. I want to thank Sir Jimmy and Andouilie for helping me out in this battle. Sorry. And I want to thank Alexis and MS for playing as the Prussia against us, MLGMaplePotato trademark playing against us as the British, and llecllerrafael playing against us as the French. So I'm El Warfy, and I'll see you guys next time.